If you weren't betting on Volkanovski, what were you doing? What were you watching? Did you not see 9 months ago that he beat Lopes? UFC 325, Volkanovski versus Lopes 2, the rematch, 100 to 1000 series recap. Volkanovski wins by unanimous decision and does what he did 9 months ago, and people thought it would be different. People thinking that Lopes would knock out Volkanovski when he couldn't do it the first time. He even ended up dropping him in the second fight as well, but you know what? Lopes, he just doesn't have the skills. Volkanovski, his footwork, his IQ, and his game planning is elite. He's elite everywhere. I don't know why anybody was doubting Volkanovski. He's the featherweight GOAT, and still. Let's get into our locks, value, and bets. Start off our locks with Volkanovski at minus 142. This was a freebie. If you didn't cash in on Volkanovski, you're either a Volkanovski hater or you were just overestimating him being 37 and thinking he would get knocked out, and he's significantly worse than he was 9 months ago, which doesn't make much sense. We locked him in because we knew he would do the same thing as he did 9 months ago. Unless you're Ilia Topuria, you're not really knocking out Volkanovski. Volkanovski has great distance control, great footwork, and he was able to get away from Lopes majority of the fight, and Lopes looked like he didn't do too much, but that just shows how great that Volkanovski is. Our next lock was Malkoun at minus 148. It didn't look like he had that finishing instinct, and he could have put away Finney multiple times, but he pieced him up, even went for his own takedowns, and looked like Finney might have got injured. But Finney, he's just too one-dimensional. He only looks for takedowns, gets no damage, and Malkoun, he was the better wrestler here. He was the better boxer here. Should have finished him, but Malkoun, as a lock, minus 148 was great odds. Our last lock was the under 1.5 on the Taivasa versus Teixeira fight. Honestly, this fight could have ended, but he ended up gassing. Teixeira, he ended up getting mount multiple times, but Taivasa is pretty tough. Once it went past the first round, I knew that it wasn't going to hit. Both of them were too gassed to do anything. It would be a little swing and bang. It was a lot of ground game. Ended up gassing. We ended up going 2 out of 3 on the locks. Not the best, but you know what? The first two, they were definitely my strongest plays. Volkanovski and Malkoun was my most confident. I did think that Taliesin would be able to either get Taivasa out of there or get knocked out like he did against Lewis. It is what it is. 2 out of 3, not the worst, not the best. We move on. Next up is the value. We had Malkoun at minus 148. That was really good value. He won 30-27. He could have finished him multiple times. Money line on Volkanovski at minus 142. He won a comfortable decision. 49-46, 49-46, and 50-45. Volkanovski, he wasn't really in any danger except in the third round where he got a flash drop at the end of the round. His footwork, his IQ was just too good for Lopes. Lopes couldn't match his skill. Benoit Saint-Denis inside the distance at minus 135. That was another really good value bet, especially because Hooker and Benoit, they really bring it. We all knew that it was going to be a vicious, violent fight. Benoit had the takedowns. He ended up securing some takedowns, but in the ending sequence, Hooker ended up going for the takedown. Benoit got on top, ground and pound finish. It was a good thing I didn't go for the submission play because I thought he would be able to submit him, but the ground and pound inside the distance at minus 135 covered both, so it was pretty good value, ended up hitting. Next up, we had McAuliffe, money line at minus 125. You know what? It looked a little bit dicey in the first round. He wasn't really able to find his distance, wasn't able to find his kicking range, and you know what? I thought he would be the better striker in this matchup, but it looked like Elliott actually had pretty good striking. Fight ended up getting to the ground, and McAuliffe found a good submission win in the second round. I thought he would do better on the feet, but on the ground, ended up finding the submission win, and at minus 125 was really good value. Next up, we had Nakamura, plus 114 money line. Was looking really dicey. In the first and second round, he was losing, and in the third round, he ended up pushing the pace, looking for the knockout because he knew he was down. He found a nasty knee and knocked him out, and you know what? At plus 114, I knew he had the power, I knew he had the precision, and he ended up finding the knockout blow. Next up, we had Tai Tuivasa by KO at plus 330. He could have ended up getting the KO win in the third round because Taliesin was dead tired, but the only problem was Tuivasa was just dead tired. Ended up losing. There was not the best chance of hitting it, but at plus 330, it was more of a flyer. Definitely not something that you would put a lot of money on, but in the value picks, we went 5 out of 6, which is really good. And they were all straight plays that you could have just bet by themselves. So hopefully you cashed in on some of this value. Going into the bets, we had Volkanovski, $20 on the money line. We ended up profiting just over 14, and you know what? I ended up betting more than $20 just because we only have a limit of 100. Volkanovski, he was a free bet. If you weren't betting on Volkanovski, what were you doing? What were you watching? Did you not see 9 months ago that he beat Lopes? Next up, we had Malkoun, $20 on the money line, just over $13 profit. And you know what? This was a really good, safe bet. If you knew anything about his grappling, his wrestling, you knew he wasn't going to struggle with Finney's wrestling. On the feet, he was miles better than Finney, and it really showed. He really pieced them up. He could have finished them multiple times, so it was a really safe, easy bet. Cashed in on that. Plus 13.51. Next up, we had Benoit, $20 on the inside of the distance at minus 135. Profited just under $15 on that. Benoit really just put it on him, dogged them out. Benoit was in mount multiple times. Hooker Didn't give up, but you know what? He was just put in bad spots, couldn't survive. Then we had $20 on McAuliffe money line at -125. We ended up profiting $16 on that. I really didn't think that he'd end up finding the submission win. It was gonna be a finish. I was thinking that maybe he'd KO him with like a head kick or something like that. But you know what? His ground game is better than I thought. Elliott's wrestling and grappling maybe worse than I thought as well. But you know what? His striking really looked good. McAuliffe, he really couldn't get it going in the first round, but in the second round he ended up finding the submission. Money line at -125, it seemed pretty good. And our last bet was the Tai Tuivasa Taliesin Teixeira under 1.5 parlayed with Benoit Saint Denis Hooker inside the distance. We ended up putting 20 on that. It was -102. The leg that ended up taking this out was a Tai Tuivasa versus Taliesin under 1.5. And you know what? After the first, it wasn't really looking like it was going to hit. It's unfortunate that it ended up missing, but you know what? We went 4 out of 5 on our bets. We ended up profiting $38.40 from the 100. Hopefully you were able to cash in on some of these bets because you know what? They were pretty free. So for this week's 100 to 1,000, we bet 100. Our total bets made was 5, and our total bets won was 4. So we ended up only losing 1 bet. Our remaining was 138.40. Ended up profiting 38.40. Our ROI was 38.40. Pretty easy math. It was definitely a pretty good night for our 100 to 1,000 series, putting us in the right direction from the slump last week. So overall, we bet on 3 events. Our total bets made was 20. Our total bets won was 9. Lost 11. Total bet was 300. Our profit is -22.75. Our ROI is -7.58. And you know what? We're really getting back into it. First episode, we ended up losing like $2. Our second episode, we ended up having a steep one, losing like 57. But we really ended up bouncing back. Just a quick recap on my initial reads. I ended up going 11 out of 13 on them. I ended up switching on the Roofy pick. Ended up calling that perfectly. KO in the second round. Ended up switching on the Taliesin Tuivasa fight. Really riding with Bam Bam, thinking that he would end up having a shoey at the end of the night, knocking him out, but you know what? He ended up getting taken down, ended up gassing. Could have had something in the third round, but he ended up losing by decision. Ended up flipping on the Tafa Elikana fight. Honestly, my initial read on the Elikana fight was perfect. For the fight and any research, I was thinking that Tafa was the person that you just bet against every single time because he has no ground game. If he gets taken down, he's going to get submitted. And you know what? That's exactly what ended up happening. But I was rewatching some of Elikana's fights, and on the feet, he just didn't look that good. And you know what? He ended up getting dropped in the first round by Tafa. And Elikana recovered. And in the second round, he actually had some brains to get the fight to the ground because Tafa has no ground game and ended up getting submitted in the second round. So the initial read was actually a perfect call, but ended up switching it and getting it wrong completely. And the last one that we flipped on was the Yiza versus Offley. That was a robbery, so I feel like this actual switch should have been correct. So we should have went even on our flips, but ended up going 9 out of 13 on our official picks. Bit unfortunate. Should have been 10 out of 13, but it is what it is. There were some great bets. We went 4 out of 5. If you liked the video, give it a like. If you tailed some of the bets, cashed in on Volkanovski, or just had any good bets on your own, leave a comment down below. Subscribe for more, and thanks for watching.